Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Dragonus Podcastus. My name is Lady Maeve. I'll be your co-host for the day because, for some reason, Ed Ponic seems to go through co-hosts like tissue paper. Ponic, tell him about the Patreon and the Fiverr page.
Yeah, so once we get the Patreon page up and going, you can support us there. You can also support me on the Fiverr page. I do weapon and armor art, and from my understanding, Lady Maeve also does her own games. We will provide a link to that at some point. But for right now, we're just gonna do the episode. I'm gonna try to break her in and maybe not bunk her over the head with a player's handbook. Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll get there. Anyway, so just to kind of break you in, we're gonna do it. We're doing an episode that's a little evil, if you will.
Evil is good. I like evil.
And we'll start off with the quote, and you can add this to the bingo card whenever we get the bingo card. And this is from Darth Treya from this Knights of the Old Republic 2. It is such a quiet thing to fall, but even worse is to admit it. And then I was going to recite the One Ring to Rule Them All speech in actual black speech, but because it's the evil AF speech that you do not speak out loud at all, I'd rather not take the risk. So we are talking about creatures and powers of the shadow. And for those who know what I'm about to probably go on, you're going to the Shadow Realm, Jimbo.
I love a good Yu-Gi-Oh quote. I pull out my blue eyes white dragon and counter your cards.
You've activated my trap card. It's funny how the whole "you're going to the Shadow Realm" thing became a whole thing for the entire first Yu-Gi-Oh series.
I always loved the hit points they had in that game. I have 5 million hit points, and you
Oh,
just took away 2. And it's like, how long is this anime gonna last for
oh
today?
God. They had duels that had like 4 parts in them. It was insane sometimes.
It's like, wait, I have to assemble the entire monster out of these 8 cards.
Oh gosh. Oh God, Exodia. Dear God.
Exodia.
Anyway, so the powers and abilities that are offered to somebody who gives themselves to the shadow or are created from it are numerous and range from the common perceptions of what the shadows are actually capable of to the more esoteric. And to put it in a better context, the shadow is basically the dark side. Uh, Now you will experience the full power of the dark side. I can't do a very good Palpatine impression, but once one dedicates themselves to the shadows, it's not an immediate thing. It's not like, oh, now you're basically a servant of the shadows. It's a gradual process. And it usually occurs in basically 5 steps. The first step is the first exposure to it. This is when you first tap into the shadow, and you're likely doing it to save yourself or someone else, and you initially brush it off as, well, I didn't have much of a choice, and it just kind of just sort of happened.
I like luring the players in with this, like, oh, it's just one time. It'll save everyone. It'll be fine. There's nothing wrong. Just sign the contract, and everything will be okay. You'll save your friends.
Yeah, so, and then
You're still the good guy.
oh yeah, yeah, for now. Uh, Step 2 is the dabbling. After, using it a few more times, both consciously and unconsciously, you kind of go research into what it can do, maybe research the dangers, or who/what is the ruler of the realm of shadows. And maybe you show off to a couple people or two with a concerning mentor watching.
I love in games when players will actually take, I don't want to call it the bait, but the plot hook, and they'll go start researching, well, who is this Lord of Shadows? Who is this Queen of Spiders? But it's also fun when they don't take the bait and they're like, oh, okay, I'll just keep using this fun new power. over and over again, and they just like completely ignore the nightmares and the signs, and it just makes for a very compelling story if they choose not to research.
Yeah, it's like the shadow is going fishing, and eventually they're gonna catch something. Don't know what. It could be a boot, it could be a piece of junk, but they'll catch something. So yeah, and then step 3 is the confrontation. Or sometimes called the intervention. The mentor will confront you and say you're dabbling into something extremely dangerous or you don't fully understand, but paranoia has slowly crept into your mind and giving you reason into thinking that your teacher is holding you back or not giving you more knowledge. This is also where either a student will either go on to step 4 or they will see the error of their ways and try to repent in some capacity.
This is kind of the last stop before the final act, before everything comes home. Either you fix what you got into, or you just get sucked down by the quicksand.
Oh yeah, you don't pass go, you don't collect $200, if you will.
You
And then,
have a chance, but
oh,
it's only a chance.
oh yeah, um, yeah. So for step 4, it's the do or die. Basically, you either commit yourself or you're gonna get sent to oblivion. Yet the ideal scenario would be you find yourself in a life-threatening situation where the only options are either you commit to the shadows and its power and use it to get yourself out of that precarious situation, or you refuse and you end up dying. If you go all in, you are basically made a servant of the shadows and granted some incredible but very dangerous powers, and you're given a new outlook on the world, as well as a couple of rules, which are you can't attack White Lighters or anyone associated with Valkyria. You have to follow the orders of the one who gave you your powers. Most commonly, it's a being of shadow, a higher being, that doesn't really have a name, or its name is in Shadow Tongue, or Black Speech sometimes, or you're serving the big guy, Saragash. And you can't venture into hell and attack the residents there lest you incur the wrath of the big guy. The big guy being Satan.
And
Uh,
there's always the fun twist where if they do die, maybe they're going to come back, but it's not them inside the head anymore. It's something else that's kind of wearing them as a costume.
yeah, it's very, it's, what's the word? It basically, it kind of, there's this connotation that, um, you know that meme of, where Obi-Wan says, Anakin, so-and-so is evil. From my point of view, so-and-so is evil. Then you are lost. That kind of,
Yes, yes.
that
The
kind of,
whole,
yeah.
it is, you are gone. It is done. Um, and it can make for some great plot points in game. Unfortunately, the person that ends up in the situation, I'd say 8 times out of 10, eventually will have to make a new character, but they might like playing the altered version of the character they came up with in the first place, at least for a while.
Yeah, and then finally, step 5 is the point of no return. And this is where your reality is warped by the creature you serve, and if there was ever a time to repent and turn back, this is not it. You are basically too far gone at this point, and the only thing that will save you is having a holy sword plunged into your chest. The paranoia and using your negative emotions to fuel your power becomes much more prevalent here.
And at that point, that it's time to re-roll a new character. This character's now a villain in the storyline, and we're gonna need a new NPC that will be this new character, and we're gonna need a new character for the player because uh, this one has gone off and is now doing the evil with the big bad.
If I had to make any other comparison, I would say it's also like being corrupted by chaos from 40K with the Horus Heresy, where Horus kind of gradually got corrupted. That would be the other
Yes,
comparison I would make. All right, so let's,
the Lords of Chaos.
yeah. Um, so let's move on to the powers. So some of the more common powers that you see is teleportation, which is often referred to sometimes as shimmering. And it takes on usually two forms: a portal of pure blackness that kind of looks like a sphere of annihilation in a way, or simply phasing out and reappearing somewhere else. Say for example, you're the person in question wants to basically kidnap somebody. They can grab somebody and they can actually take them with them, and they don't have to worry about any negative connotations because they're technically in full control of their teleporting. It's kind of like Nightcrawler a little bit too.
Yeah, I love Nightcrawler's Bamf power where he just pops in and out. So in relation to that, I know Nightcrawler has that sulfur smell when he teleports. Does this have any other cue to the players that it's happening other than the shimmering effect?
Well, sometimes when the person teleports, they'll leave behind like little bits of smoke or sometimes the ground will be singed just a little bit, and that's usually a
Okay.
sign. It's usually a sign that the ground has been like basically not corrupted, but has been like um tampered with or in some capacity. And but it's very easy to track this kind of
Okay.
teleportation. The next power is the Aura of Dread. This is usually used by Darklighters just before they attack. The victim gets a very bad shiver down their spine, and they also feel cold as if a wave of unrestricted darkness has come over them, and they can't quite explain it. And then, the Darklighter appears, attacks, and then just leaves.
So the question for this is, for the characters playing the game, would they get like a pre-warning that an attack is about to happen in game, or um, how does this work out for the characters in the game?
Ideally, it'd be kind of like the spider sense in a way, like but you would not get like a perception. You would actually lose. It's kind of like a sneak attack, basically, where but
Okay.
you don't you do get a save against it, but you don't have like you don't know where it's coming from, and you don't know when it's coming, but it's coming at some point. It depends.
Okay.
It depends on how sadistic the DM wants to be.
That is true. You could, if you're being nice, maybe give them advantage on a perception check or an advantage on initiative. They just don't know when and where it's coming from.
Yeah, this also
If
incites
you're nice.
it also incites a lot of paranoia, which can be useful.
Almost like there's an item called the Weapon of Warning, but it's pretty much useless in the game because basically it says there's danger, there's danger, there's danger, but there's always danger. So it's always yelling at the player.
You just want to stick that thing in a trash bin or something.
It's like just throw it out the window. It's useless. Everything's dangerous.
Yeah. So there's the Shadow Walk, which the user basically travels into the unseen realm and can walk without being seen by mortals, and only the Isaru or dragons can see through this, guys. This is actually similar to what the Nazgul um do because they're technically their spirit. Basically, they go into something called the Wraith World, and only the wise and the powerful can see through this. It's actually kind of interesting, and this is commonly used by the Headless Shadows or the Death Race, which are basically my version of the Nazgul.
It's sounds like it's a parallel, almost a parallel to the ethereal plane, where you can go into the world of ghosts. But it sounds like it's a more of a, let's say, a more secluded realm where not everybody can peek into it.
Actually, that's bang on the mark. So there is the touch of death. I'm sure I don't need to explain this one.
What I love is the new player's handbook came out for 5e, and they have updated the death touch spell. It used to be Finger of Death, that if you missed, nothing happened if they made their save. Now they get a massive amount of damage if they have the less than 100 hit points, which is a nice change.
Yeah, so basically this is another Darklighter ability. It's fueled by hate, and if the Darklighter touches you, you turn into a bunch of ashes on the ground. And yeah, not fun. It's not something you want to get hit by.
No, no touchy, no touchy. It's like Emperor's New Groove, you know? Don't.
We have to review of Emperor's New Groove at some point. That actually would be
I
hilarious.
love that movie.
I love
Kronk is my jam. I love Kronk.
I love how like self-aware the movie is too. Anyway, there's basically weapon summoning. The user can conjure a weapon empowered by the shadows, and this could be pretty much anything the user think of, and it simply materializes in their hand. Um, think think anything that could be a weapon: a book, a crowbar, a sandwich.
Rubber ducky. We love spiritual weapon rubber
Rubber
ducky.
ducky.
Spiritual weapon squeaky hammer. Um,
Oh god.
so with the shadow weapons that you summon, is there any special damage ability that they have since
They
they are made of shadows?
they do have an enhanced attack, but they do less damage against beings that are considered holy. So Sisters of Valkyria would be a big one. Um, they do no damage to white lighters, except for the crossbow. The crossbow is tipped with poison that is specifically designed to kill basically angels and all that. But because of the rules that dark lighters have to follow, they're not allowed to attack white lighters. But if they do, oh boy. Let's just say they're gonna go through. They're gonna be put on something called the rack, and it's not gonna be pleasant for them.
They're not supposed to break the rules, but if they don't get caught, that's something completely different. But they might get caught, so.
Yeah, they might get caught. Now, shadow lightning. Shadow lightning is a lot of fun because unlike regular lightning or even something like a Nordic lightning, shadow lightning is black in color and getting hit by it like actually hurts. And not even a Solaris Knight's shield or a Sister's Shield of Faith can defend against it for very long. And it actually has the ability to basically flash fry and even disintegrate victims if the user is powerful enough. And really, the only things that can really block Shadow Lightning is the shield that is powered exclusively by willpower. Think Green Lantern shield, Dragon Magic, or the rare Absorb Energy ability, which not many people have access to. But think of like how when Count Dooku shot the lightning at Yoda and he like caught it in his hand and threw it back at him. That's what Absorb Energy is. That's actually an ability called Tutaminis.
And also, for those Avatar: The Last Airbender fans, Uncle Iroh is able
Oh
to
yes, exact.
redirect the lightning and bounce it back kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been a while since I've seen. It's been a while since I've seen the Last Airbender, at least the cartoon. I heard the live action is relatively good, but I haven't seen it myself.
It's pretty decent. It is, I'm only halfway through it, but so far we're enjoying it. And you gotta love yourself Uncle Iroh. He
I
is
I love
the
Uncle Iroh.
ultimate, he actually convinced me to try jasmine tea. I'd never had it before. I'm like, oh, well, this person loves it so much. And halfway through drinking, I'm like, wait a minute. The person that's recommending this to me is a cartoon character. But that's okay, because it's Iroh.
Yeah. Anyway, so shadow bolts are next. They're basically energy balls that are made of pure shadow energy. I have you ever seen the original Charmed?
Yes, yes, I have.
So you know how
Very
like
good show if you haven't seen it yet.
yeah, I would recommend the original, not the reboot. But anyway, you know how like the demons and warlocks they can like throw energy balls and all that?
Yes.
That's basically what this is, and it has enough. These energy balls basically have enough power to break the shields or armor of Solaris Knights or anything else that. But for anything else or anyone else, they just get thrown backwards. It's
Okay.
funny how every time a demon like comes into the house, they basically like they throw energy balls and they like break something. It's like that's gotta be
Yeah.
the insurance for those things has gotta go through the roof.
Yeah. Oh, you have demons in your house. Well, your deductible's gonna triple now.
Oh god.
We don't cover paranormal damages. It just costs us too much money.
Oh god. I remember the episode where Wyatt kept like setting off the alarm just because he wanted attention. It was really hilarious. I mean, once Wyatt got introduced, it was like all the crazy stuff he did. Like he actually teleported Piper into the middle of the highway, and she went, "Bad baby."
One thing I like about these shadow bolts is they're specifically made to target one specific threat.
Well, yeah,
The shield and armors of the Solaris Knights. So
yeah, the
if you're
Solaris,
not one of those knights, you should be fine, except your stuff's gonna get broken.
or you're gonna get, thrown back and knocked unconscious. But it's more because Solaris Knights are just ungodly tough, so they're kind of designed to do that. The bolts are designed to do that. So the next one is Drain Essence. This is basically where the user can conjure tendrils of pure shadow that can rip into a victim and drain their life essence. And this could be tuned to rip information or skills from a target. Do you ever see the original, like the first ever live action Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
I did.
do you remember the guy with the blue toothpaste on his lips, and he had like the and Jeremy Irons like throws a spell on him, and he has like the little tendrils coming out of his ears, kind of thing,
Yes,
and he
yes.
uses it to interrogate the
Um,
the magic user.
yes. I don't recommend the first Dungeons and
Oh
Dragons
god,
movie as watching.
it's so
Um,
bad, it's so bad.
it is very bad. Um, yeah, a lot of movies back then, they weren't great, but we watched them anyways because that's all we had. But yes, I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Oh god, yeah, it's oh god, we should review the first Dungeons and Dragons movie just to have a laugh at it.
I would also recommend maybe any other bad fantasy movie of the 80s. You know, the things that have you ever heard of Mystery Science Theater 3000?
No, I haven't actually.
It was a show where they would review like D-list movies that were sci-fi and fantasy movies, and the entire time they're showing the movie, they have a gentleman and his two robots. They look like they're sitting in the front row of a movie theater, and their shadows on the screen, and they're just commenting about the movie through the entire movie. Um, and they're interacting with the screen and stuff while the movie's going on. And the movies were horrible, but the commentary was very entertaining. So we could do hopefully something along the lines of, "Hey, we're going to save you from this horrible movie."
Well, there is one
But
consolation
yes,
for the first Dungeons and Dragons movie. Its sequel, Wrath of the Dragon God, was a lot better.
yes, yes, it was.
Anyway,
Um,
so next one
but yeah,
is
don't recommend that one.
yeah. Anyway, the next one is Leechcraft, which is quote unquote subtle poisons, which are basically used to weaken a target and make them more susceptible to manipulation or persuasion. Think what Wormtail did to King Theoden. Basically, that's what he did. He did Leechcraft. And this can only be cured by Holy Light, which is usually what a sister is charged with when they're usually charged with healing this affliction, because they're technically the only ones that can actually conjure Holy Light. And then,
Um,
oh,
sorry. Yeah, Leechcraft would be the fun little bits that you would hopefully your players would catch in the game. But sometimes, they're going to fail that perception check and not notice that evil advisor is whispering in the king's ear.
oh god, the amount of evil advisors or advisors that say that are wearing a t-shirt that says, "Hey, I'm evil."
It's always the Grand Vizier.
Oh
We should know
god,
this by now.
good god. The amount of times I look at Jafar and I'm like, "Yep, he's 100% evil." And just his voice, just the way he talks is just, oh my god. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so the final power is something called the Field of Shadows. This blankets an area up to 5 miles, give or take, with shadow, and it usually blocks out the sky with either an unnatural eclipse or just clouds that don't seem to go away. This is another Lord of the Rings aspect thing, where this is how actually Sauron managed to move all his orcs from Mordor over to Minas Tirith, because orcs can't really function very well in direct sunlight. But yeah, that's one of the more interesting. But it's this one has no negative effects. But if you hear anybody say a storm is coming, that's usually what that means. Is usually a field of shadows is basically imparting on the land.
I think vampires would absolutely love to have this ability so that they don't have to deal with the sunlight. And I would love to have this ability in real life because I fry in the sun. I am very easily sunburned, so this would be lovely to be able to block out the sun just in a small area, just so there's no sunburning going on.
So let's talk about the residents of the shadows now. We have the Headless Knight, which is a corrupted version of the Headless Horseman from the, what was it? Sleepy Hollow, right? Sleepy Hollow is the one
The
with,
dueling,
he
yeah,
goes around.
with the Ichabod Crane.
Yep. He goes around once a year and causes mass terror for shits and giggles because he's just like that. But in the plane of shadows, he's known by another name, Phil.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love giving my terrifying monsters just a normal name.
yeah. It really throws you for a loop, doesn't it?
It's like that Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference, the great wizard that's shoving fireballs everywhere. And they're like, "What is your name, oh great wizard?" There are some who call me Tim?
Okay, fun fact about
I'm
that. Okay, they actually blew their budget on those explosions, and John Cleese actually forgot what he was supposed to say because it's supposed to be something really ridiculous long name, so he just kind of improvised it, and that's the great strength of Monty Python. Oh God, we should actually review Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That would be a perfect D&D.
That, that would be awesome. The Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a D&D campaign, and then by the end of it, the DM is tired of the shenanigans and does the classic rocks fall, everybody dies, but it turns out the police show up and arrest everybody, and the session is now done.
That's actually the joke. The joke of that is that it's basically a cop out. It's like quite literally a cop out.
Literally. Literally.
Anyway,
Um,
so our next resident is the Death Race, which are basically ring race. They don't serve the ruler of shadows. They actually serve somebody called the Lich King of Agnos. And their shriek of woe causes all in its vicinity to despair and scream in terror. And their fell blades are tipped with a poison which are designed to kill Lightbringers or anybody who's basically um, holy, but it can also affect mortals, and it just turns them into a white or just a regular wraith. There is the Shadow Spawn, which can take on whatever form it chooses, but it's almost always perceived as a dark inflection of something. So it's kind of like it can also be a shadow doppelganger too. There is another creature. Well, I don't know if we call it a creature, but it's more like a force of nature, if you will. But Gozer the Gozerian. And as the Ghostbusters explain, Gozer can take on whatever form it chooses. So it could be a woman, it could be a man, it could be even be a red-eyed dog, for crying out loud.
yes.
It,
Um, it sounds kind of like they're kind of almost mixed up with a banshee, where they've got the scream, and it causes fear and terror as they're coming in with their poisonous blades.
oh yeah, they have characteristics of a banshee, but they're far more deadly because they walk like men, but they're something else entirely. It's said that to be in the presence of a death wraith is to experience unbelievable fear, a fear that you can't quite explain. So the next one is, it's not actually a creature, it's an actual like artifact. It's called the Aspect of Anguish. This is an obelisk that when deployed to the mortal world, it's never been done so far, anyone in its radius is basically unable to use magic or spells because of the amount of anguish they or despair they feel. This is commonly used by Charian Inquisitors. What sometimes they'll find like shards of the thing, and while not super powerful, it still has a small effect. It's kind of like the kryptonite to magic users. It's like, oh god, yeah, that would be the most ideal comparison. I would think so.
So for those of you who want to become your own evil overlord, make sure you import several of these around your base, whether it's a volcano, a mansion, a castle, and it will help keep those do-gooders from casting spells in your presence.
Yeah. So the next one we've already talked about, which are dark lighters. These are the opposite guys of the white lighters. They actually, their purpose is actually to, they're technically assassins. They kill people who actually deserve to die, and if Satan doesn't claim their soul, it usually just goes right to Saragash. And it's the Darklighter's job to drag their soul to the Shadow Plane, and usually a Darklighter is created when when they were killed, as they perceive it, unjustly. And
So so they're almost like a reverent where they have this mission that uh they're killed in an unjust manner and they feel that they have to like redeem themselves almost, but not in a good way.
oh yeah, absolutely. Now this next one, some people might be familiar with. It is the Bodak. Now, while the Bodak is a creation of Orcus, the shadow variant of the Bodak is far more deadly, and it's a predator that often stumbles its way into the mortal plane and looking specifically for a person that it's another revenant kind of thing. But in place of its death gaze, it has the tormented whale, which deals 5d6 necrotic damage to a target within 40 feet, and the target has to make a DC 15 Constitution save. If they succeed, they just take 1d6 additional necrotic damage. But if they fail, they are susceptible to the planar trap ability, which pulls the victim into the shadow plane with no way for them to escape. Again, going back to the you're going to the shadow realm, Jumbo.
And if you've never seen a Bodak before, they basically look like they're wearing the Scream mask with the elongated mouth, but they always look like that.
What's
And
that?
they're kind of terrifying for players to come up across because they're almost like a Death Eater. They can like suck your soul and things like that.
Oh God. I'll post a picture just to show what it looks like. It is very
Yeah,
terrifying.
you do not want to come up against these.
Oh God.
Um,
They're a lot of fun to use.
they're
Like,
pretty cute.
they're a lot of fun to use because the party doesn't know what the hell it is, or they don't know how to deal with it. But it can be a very. It's more of like, oh, you pissed off my master. Now I'm gonna take you before him, and he's gonna rip out your soul, or give you a stern talking to. So
They're not fun for the players to deal with.
oh no, no.
They're very overpowered and yeah. So
So our
DM sprinkle them in your story as you will.
so our next dweller is actually a Disney villain. It is one of the classic Disney villains, the mistress of evil herself, Maleficent. Now, despite dwelling in hell, Maleficent was actually once a mortal warlock who made a pact with Saragash in exchange for, the typical thing, power and eternal beauty. However, she broke her pact, and as punishment, she was transformed into a hideous shadow demon that dwells in hell, and Satan and Saragash, they don't generally get along very well, but Saragash basically decided to let Satan claim Maleficent's soul. However, thanks to some dumb foolery from mortals, or possibly some manipulation, Maleficent was able to walk into the mortal realm once more, and she actually made plans to conquer it, but divine intervention came in, along with a sword to the heart in her dragon form, thanks to Valkyria before she ascended. Basically, she chucked a sword into Maleficent's heart, and it basically forced her out of her dragon form. Now, as punishment, Satan declared that anybody attempting to aid Maleficent in conquering the mortal plane would be punished very severely, especially on his end of things. And the mortals banned using her name, and a powerful curse was put on her so that she would always feel the sting of Valkyria's blade. So, and should she come into proximity of it, she would basically or say for example she would put a toe into the mortal realm, or she would feel the sting of the blade, but if she came into into proximity and she actually saw the blade, she would have a fucking aneurysm because she does not want to get hit by that thing again, because that is a pure holy light sword that got thrown into her
So,
heart.
evil idea. Group of adventurers somehow need to recruit her. Is the sword still in her where they have to pull it out, or
No,
is the sword on the mortal realm?
no, it's actually it's in Valhalla right now. It's actually I believe, well, one version of the sword is actually placed inside the vault in the Sisters' Temple. The actual sword itself, is actually with Valkyria and Valhalla. But the sword that's in the vault, it doesn't. It has the ability to channel the full powers of Valhalla and the Valkyrie, but it's considered such a holy item and it's so revered that it will only be used if the situation calls for it, or if they're in a we're in our darkest hour moment, or like, holy shit, Maleficent's in the mortal realm, get the sword.
I was thinking almost a sword in the stone thing where it's always embedded in her, and maybe a group of foolhardy adventurers would like try to get her on their side to take on the powers of evil. The enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing, but I can just see this going horribly wrong in fun ways.
Oh gosh, yes. So our final resident is the Lord of Shadows himself, Sarayesh. Nobody knows what it looks like, and whether it is a he or she, or we don't even know what gender it is. It's basically a formless entity, and what they do know is that it basically rules the shadow plane, and when someone actually goes into the shadow realm for willingly to talk with Saragesh for any reason, all they see are basically the two glowing red eyes and a Cheshire cat smile. Um, yeah, Cheshire cat
So we're talking. Sorry, sorry.
Cheshire cat is a force of chaos.
So you're saying this is probably God level entity for the storyline to deal with.
Ideally, yes. Now, one thing to note about Saragesh, and by extension Satan, is that they're not unreasonable. They're not like, ha ha ha, ha, I'm twirling the mustache kind of evil. Or, how dare you walk into my realm? I'm going to turn you into dust and rip out your soul. They're like, ooh, I've got visitors. This should be interesting.
They will make deals and bargains, but you better uphold your end.
Generally, usually if they want to make a deal, they have a very particular reason. Like, for example, Saragesh, if, say, I don't know, a Dark Layer broke the rules, but he has no way of tracking him, or they want to deal, they want the mortals to have, he looks at the mortals, he's like, you guys are kind of due for a win, aren't you? So they're like, you track down this and take down this Dark Layer, and I'll make sure no shadows go into your realm for, let's say, 1,000 years. And he's usually good about that, but sometimes he'll slip something under the door just to kind of say, I'm still here and I'm still ever present, but I'm just letting you know I'm still holding my end up of the bargain. If something gets out, then it's not my fault. It's, the person got out.
Buyer beware. Read your contract carefully. Check for hidden print and microprint. And always consult a cleric of the light before signing all contracts with evil.
Yeah. Or, don't do what Ariel did with Ursula. Don't sign your name on a contract. Actually,
Technically, she was under the age where you can legally sign a binding contract. I'm not sure the rules underwater, but she was not a legal age, so technically that contract should have been null.
I guess, and also she kind of broke the rules a little of the things of the
She broke
contract.
the rules a lot. She broke the rules a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she
Though
did.
she gets one of the Ursula has one of the best villain songs by and far.
Definitely. Most definitely.
So yeah, that's the Shadow Realm and all its lovely gizmos. What are your thoughts before we wrap up here?
Oh, it sounds like a very interesting place for the players and characters to experience in the world. And I'm interested to see if our listeners slash viewers have any questions or comments about the Shadow Realm or thoughts and ideas that would flesh it out a little bit better.
Now, I did say that there are a lot of comparisons to Lord of the Rings here, but a lot of these are actually my own creations. Like, for example, the aspect of anguish. But the Bodak is one of the examples of how I took a monster from the monster manual actually, is the Bodak from the monster manual? I forget.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Um, yep, definitely.
So, well, yeah.
And there's things in the monster manual like the headless horseman. That's a creature. I know you have special powers it has that are not in the stat block. So if anybody's interested in running these monsters, it shouldn't be too hard to incorporate them into the game.
Yeah, yeah. The Bodak is a particular one, and I was actually rewatching the Dungeon Dudes their list of the five deadliest creatures from each challenge rating, and the Bodak struck out to me because it's it's one of those monsters that's like, oh yeah, you could definitely get away with like saying, oh yeah, it's a creature of shadow, 100%.
Most definitely. Um, if for those of you interested, it is a challenge rating 6. So you could put level 4 characters up against it. They would have trouble with it.
Oh
If you
god, yes.
have level 5 and above, you can throw several Bodaks at them and then get that action economy going. But these things have really fun abilities and attacks. So I definitely recommend looking up the Bodak if you're DMing and want to like throw a curveball at your characters. They fit in to all kinds of campaigns as an evil creature. And they can just show up in the wild. That maybe they got lost somewhere
A,
and
wi- a
couldn't
wild
find their way
a
back
wild
to the
Bodak
Underdark or their Avernus.
a wild Bodak appeared. Go Pikachu!
You're wandering in the tall grass. A wild Bodak appears. Poor Pikachu.
Oh god.
Oh, I don't think he's going to do well against that.
No, no, he's not.
Yes.
It's
But
it's
yes.
it's it's oh, you know that painting of where the guy like he has like the long mouth, he's holding his hands. I forget what that's called, but that kind of reminds me of
The Scream.
yeah, that's it. That's
The
it.
Scream. They look like the Scream painting, only not as fun.
Yeah.
Uh, you do not want these guys coming over.
I wonder if Ghostface was inspired by the Bodak.
I would say so. The Bodak has been around in many editions of D&D, so they're not like new to 5e. They've been around a very long time. They're in the what's called the SDR, which is the content that anybody can use for any role-playing game.
And
Let's
and
see.
and 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 to end this episode before we wrap up, I got one more little joke I want to do. Um, what's that? Oh god, that would be a fun thing to throw into a Halloween D&D campaign. Just Ghostface just running up to you and going, "What's that?"
What's up? Just throw in all the horror movie tropes. Have like a living doll. Have
Oh
like a
god,
Freddy
Chucky.
Krueger Dream Warrior guy. You know. And for those of you who are new to DMing, if it is a pop culture character like Freddy Krueger or Chucky, there is someone out there who has already created a monster stat block for this individual. So have fun modding out your Halloween games because it does exist. And if you need help, just comment and I can assist with finding stat blocks for strange monster combinations from pop culture.
Hell, I've seen somebody do like a Ghostbusters campaign. Believe it or not.
That is fun. Um, you can find King Kong, you can find Cthulhu. I don't recommend going up against Cthulhu unless you're like level 20 and beyond if you're doing epic leveling. He
Oh,
he does 6 to 800 damage on one attack, and he gets
Jesus
8 of those
Christ.
per turn.
I mean,
Yeah, he's bad. He's huge.
Godzilla's probably just a big kitten.
Yeah. Mr. Octopus Man. He's fine. It's fine. Um, but yep.
Anyway,
Have fun with the Shadow Realms and let us know what you guys think.
next time on Dragonus Podcastus, Bruce Lee.
Yes, enter the dragon.
Oh God.
Grasshopper.
Not yet.
You shall learn things, Grasshopper.
Not yet.
Not yet, not yet. Next time.
Next time. We'll see you next time.